Welcome back to our House Wolves podcast. We have a very special guest today, Heather Gibson. She is with us from Big Hearted Breeders, and she is full of knowledge in the nutrition and also breeding, animal behavior, and so many different areas. Heather, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. My name's Heather Gibson. I've been breeding for, oh God, over a decade. I actually started out with cats first, which is kind of fascinating. I did cat shows all over the US and worked heavily in purebred Tonkinese cats. Um, and then in my journey with my own children and foster fostering human children, sometimes that gets confused with pets. I started working with dogs as well and started out with Havanese. It's a toy breed and showed them across the US. And now I breed mini golden retrievers, which is a mix of golden cocker spaniels or King Charles Cavalier spaniels and poodles. And just love what I do. I'm a certified pet nutrition coach and a certified animal aromatherapy specialist, and I love to learn.
Yes, you know about so many different areas, and you have a very big family. So you actually have seven human children, a mix
Yes,
of
seven.
adopted and biological.
Yeah, so seven human children, four were adopted from foster care. We ended up fostering over a decade, and we had over 15 children come in and out of our home, which heavily influenced me and the direction I went, and actually got me into raising and training animals. And then I have three biological children, and so we are just a huge, busy family. Most of my kids are grown and out of the house now, so it's a different stage of life.
That's very awesome. I love the connection of how that got you into animals. And it's funny because I actually started with cats too, not breeding but rescue,
Yeah.
and then it
Okay.
transitioned to dogs. So similar start. But
Fascinating.
so what came first, the fostering or the cats, or the cats or the fostering?
Fostering humans came first. I actually did some work and have done some work off and on with fostering and helping out rescues and shelters too. I think it's amazing work, and definitely um, there's a huge place for it and a need for it. So, but yes, we started fostering children, and it was then that we had two dogs, and our children were always fighting over those two dogs. I started to see the power of that animal human bond. And because our city only allowed two dogs, I decided, well, I need a dog like cat. And so it led me down this path to find the Tonkinese breed. And that's what I started breeding after we had four um, pet Tonkinese cats, and they were just amazing in our home.
Which are what exact? Because most people won't have heard of that. So what
Yeah.
breed is that? What?
Tonkinese is a rare breed. It's a mix between Burmese and Siamese in their ancestry.
They must be very vocal. Are they
Yeah,
vocal?
they're not horribly vocal, but they're very, very outgoing and pet-like. I mean, dog-like. I mean, we still have a couple. We have one, I guess not a couple. We have one Tonkinese cat right now, and she loves to play fetch. She gets into all kinds of trouble. She's probably too smart for her own good.
So how did that transition over into dogs and breeding?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I was placing cats in kind of an emotional support role because I saw, again, the power that they had. And so I had just placed a cat in a college age home with a college age girl, and I was following up with her, and she was doing amazing. Of course, I made sure that it was the right situation, that she was mature enough to handle a pet. But it was really making a difference for her to have something to come back to her dorm, with, and they allowed pets, and she was just doing great. It was really helping with feeling of connectedness there in college. And so I got off the phone call and I called my daughter because she was kind of struggling in college, and I was like, why didn't I think of sending a cat with you? And she said, Mom, I'm not a cat person, I'm a dog person. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started going to some dog shows and meeting with breeders, checking out different breeds, temperaments, how they were, things like that,
Mhm.
and settled on the Havanese breed and started to show Havanese. I'd shown cats for years, and so it just felt natural to start showing dogs too. So we did that all over the country, and that kind of is our beginning into the dog world.
So now you breed mini Goldens,
Yes.
right? So how did you go from Havanese to getting into this new breed, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both with the cat and the dog world, I was starting to notice some issues with my breeds that I was working with. With the cats, we were having more upper respiratory infections, which I hadn't faced before. With the Havanese, we were seeing some other health issues that um, I just wasn't super comfortable breeding with. We did retire a few of our girls before even breeding them because of concerns about genetic health issues that might pass on. And I was running breeding seminars by then. So for breeders, I would bring in top experts and they would come in and train us. And we had the top geneticist at Embark, which is a company that runs, panels for people and breeders. And we were talking about coefficient of inbreeding, which is just a term to show how genetically diverse the dogs are. And someone asked, how do you know if the coefficient of inbreeding is too high? Because with that, you want it low because it shows that they're more genetically diverse. And so she said, well, it definitely varies from breed to breed. And, there are a lot of different factors, but as soon as you start noticing smaller litter sizes, more infant mortality, more health issues, then you're probably looking at a genetic diversity issue. And I kind of already knew that. And I was listening to another veterinarian that was talking about even if you go outside the country with some of these smaller breeds, and I mean smaller by population, not in size, that it can be very hard to get more genetic diversity. And so that's when I decided to go into the mixed breed world. It wasn't what I was used to. And honestly, I got a lot of pushback for it. But I do like to remind people that all of our purebred breeds were actually mixed breeds at one time. And we have a ton more science. So we can do it with even more accuracy and better health than we ever could before. So that's how I got into mini golden retrievers. Really, we breed for that golden retriever personality, the golden retriever look for the most part, in
Mhm.
a smaller weight class. So
Yeah. And I have to be honest, when I first heard the mini golden thing, I was a little bit skeptical. And then I listened to a lot of what you're doing, and then I could understand it a lot better. And I
yeah,
see, like you say, with some of the purebred lines, because I'm pro purebred lines and also rescue. Like I love both. But you do like, especially with shepherds. I'm a shepherd person, and the medical issues and the problems genetically that are passed down. It's 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 pretty bad, right?
it's
Like you see a lot of
crazy.
that. So then
Yeah,
when I was listening to what you're doing, plus just trying to like, you're creating a dog that is a good companion dog, therapy dog. So I think it's quite interesting. Like, is that how did you choose these to go? These would be good for what you're looking for, like people with trauma, people that need that kind of companion. How did you kind of decide on the mini golden?
yeah, that's a great question, and it was exactly what I was looking for. You've already heard my passion in the foster parenting world and seeing how powerful pets can be, and so when I decided to leave, it was really because I felt like I couldn't get the help I wanted out of the breeds I was working with. And so I knew I needed to do something a little bit radical. And I actually had a friend breeding mini golden retrievers. And so I got to see them firsthand. I got to see how she was doing them. I got to interact with their temperament. And that's why I got into it. And
Okay.
just to be clear, a couple of things. I think there's some misconceptions about mixed breeders. And I think there's unethical breeders in the purebred world and in the mixed breeder
Totally.
world. But a couple of the things that we do to really make sure we're doing it right is we do that comprehensive embark genetic panel. Then on our dogs, we do both OFA hip and pen hip screening. We do OFA eyes, heart, patellas, elbows, and now we're adding in echocardiograms, especially for our dogs if we have any amount of Cavalier in them. With Cavalier King Charles, heart issues are a big thing, and you just have to be really careful which lines you use for that because even with echocardiogram screenings, sometimes they don't come out for 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we're really working hard to get the best of the different breeds that we're using, and I mean, golden retrievers were a mix too. They were. Uh, I don't know how many people are familiar with the fact that are part bloodhound, part Irish setter, part water tweed spaniel, which is a breed that no longer exists. And so, if you go in the history of almost every purebred dog, they were mixed at some point. So we're kind of doing the same thing now, except for we have a lot more science, which is great.
And you're in Utah, which you mentioned, and I don't know, I assume it's pretty much the same. Like our CKC is the same as your AKC, basically. But to be a registered breeder here, it does not mean that you're doing OFA or that you're doing any of the testing. So that's what's important. Those are the questions people need to ask.
Yeah,
Because a lot
absolutely.
of registered breeders aren't doing any of that, which is kind of nonsensical to me because people think registered means that's all coming with it, but it's not.
Mm-mm.
So
No, registered means they pay like $35 with the
exactly.
registration body, and then it says, yes, these are, we believe these are the two parents, and here's the puppy with the registration paperwork.
Exactly. And what
Yeah.
kind of feedback are you getting like on the temperament of your dogs? Like they're a smaller size, which is also good for people. I mean, as a trainer, it's interesting because like as a trainer, I get a lot of calls and people are like, "Oh, I got this dog, this random dog. I want to be a therapy dog." And I'm always like, "Okay, first of all, do you know how much work goes into that? And then is this really dog really the right temperament, the right?" So what kind of feedback do you get from some of your dogs you've placed?
Yeah, so we do lifetime support with all of our clients. We also have a lifetime genetic health guarantee. We feel it's really important to back up every single one of our puppies. And the feedback we get is amazing, 80-90% of the time minimum, we're hearing things like this is the best dog we ever had, those kinds of things. Now, as a trainer that we have to work with the humans too. And
Oh,
so
definitely.
some of our feedback is, we're having a hard time with training, and so we're giving support and work with that. Most of the time, it's really common stuff that maybe they just didn't know about. So, for example, I was on a call with a client the other night, um, and I asked them, how much is the puppy sleeping? Because they just got a new puppy and they have a 3-year-old. And I try and go over all this stuff beforehand, but sometimes either they miss portions of it or they aren't quite fully listening because they're so excited. And the puppy was getting like 5-6 hours of sleep. And I was like, okay, that's really not even close to
No.
enough. So, in case anybody doesn't know, kind of our general guidelines with our breed, and it will be different breed to breed. But my general guideline is for every month they are old, they can play for 15 minutes and then they need a long nap. So
Mm,
when puppies go home at about 2 months old, they can play for about 30 minutes and then they need a long nap. So that kind of takes care of a lot of things. But we do get amazing feedback. And from, the 10 to 20% that are kind of struggling, a lot of them just don't know what they don't know. And once we help them kind of figure out how to navigate a puppy. Maybe they just had some assumptions that they weren't quite ready, even with what we try and help screen and talk about beforehand. Um, by 6 months in, we're usually at 98% completely over the moon happy with how things are going.
that's awesome. And do you think at some point this will be a recognized breed? Like, is that sort of where you're going with it, do you think? Or
I haven't quite decided. So part of, just what I've shared with my background about how I've seen, worked with breeds for a long time and in the show world, and eventually they get kind of bred in a corner. And so I'm doing a breeder retreat this weekend, a virtual breeder retreat, and we have a golden retriever breeder that's coming on and sharing all the stuff he's trying to do to increase more genetic diversity and all the work to it. And the truth is that once you're under the AKC headline, they are not very open about breeding back to the parent breeds. So it's completely different than the cat world, and this is probably way more geeky and sciencey than most people want to know.
Yeah.
But in the CFA and TICA, which are the two major cat organizations, when they realize they're getting into an issue where there's not enough genetic diversity, they call it opening the books, and they'll say we're going to breed back to the parent breeds, and they'll usually give a time frame like 3 to 5 years. During that time you can still register all of your cats with us. You can't show, but after they're at X amount of generations you can show them again. And so they're much more proactive in the cat world about creating that genetic diversity, and I feel like the AKC isn't quite there yet. So it's just not, it's interesting that it's not really um, talked about or thought about except for in certain pockets.
Yeah. Interesting. And so you still support breeders, other breeders, just a mini Goldens or just other breeders in general?
But we actually have a worldwide community. We have people that come in from Australia and Europe,
Oh,
and
wow.
we have 6 vets that are participating in the one this weekend, and they just come and give us great high level reproductive training and kind of whatever we're needing, and so it's awesome. Yep. So our retreat this weekend, we have 6 vets coming on board and training us, including reproductive vets. Sometimes we have vets from major veterinary university programs that come in, and they give us the best and latest training and how we can do what we want to do at the highest level possible.
That's awesome. I love that. Um, so if people, what kind of people do you think this breed would be right for? Like if people are listening to this and thinking, is this the right breed for me? Like, how would they
So
know?
yeah, so mini golden retrievers are great for people that are love the golden retriever personality, but maybe just need a smaller size. So, for example, I have a lot of people who are just getting a little older and they have had goldens all their life, but they realize I can't pick up my full size golden anymore. I need something a little bit smaller. I also have a lot of clients that are savvy to genetic diversity and they want something that's more genetically diverse. We're very strict on our guidelines of coefficient of inbreeding. And so sometimes I have people that come because of that, even though, they might get a dog that might be the same size as a small golden. That's what they're looking for, is like a 45 to 50 pound dog. We don't have those super often. Our normal range is 25 to 35. But if we do have, that larger size, sometimes I'll have people buy it just because they know about genetic diversity.
And it does help too. A lot of people are living in smaller homes, like apartments, townhouses. So I assume that 35-pound mark would be a pretty good fit as well.
Yeah, the trend for everybody, I would say, as I talk to all the breeders, at least in the US, is the trend is going smaller. I think we're all living in kind of smaller spaces and just want a lot of people are wanting a slightly smaller dog.
Definitely. And I definitely see that as a trainer too. Like when people are getting older and they've had all the big dogs their whole life, but then they get another big dog and it turns out to be way too much to handle. Like, but they have the knowledge, but they just don't have like the physical capability anymore. And they would do so much better with a 35-pound version. It's just easier to carry, easier to handle, easier to manage. So would you say, are they like, like some Goldens can be quite energetic? Are they fairly energetic? Or they settle into like sort of a moderate exercise?
Yeah, so we definitely have our range, just like in the golden retriever world. We do work really hard to stay away from filled or working lines because I know that's not what most people want. Um,
It's too much
and
dog usually.
Yeah, it really is. And so we are always getting feedback and finding out what our dogs are doing later when they get older. And so we look at the personality of the parents, but then we're also keeping in touch with our clients so we know how dogs are doing later. And there has been a couple times where we've come back and we've cut out full lines of um, a specific line just because we felt like maybe they had a little bit too much energy and it wasn't what we wanted to produce. So,
Mhm. And that's the thing. I find most people when they struggle, where they went wrong is just choosing wrong in the
yeah,
beginning. Because
yeah,
unfortunately, people just go off looks often, or they don't get the dog. And that's why, rescue breeder, as long as they're responsible, I wish people would spend more time getting the right dog for their lifestyle. Because that's usually when they have problems. It's just not a good fit for their lifestyle.
yeah. And it goes both ways. If you get a puppy and it's not a good fit for your lifestyle, then you're really not a good fit for the puppy either. And it creates the mismatch on both ends, and both people are miserable. Both the puppy and the family are miserable.
Exactly. And I was involved in rescue for many years, and it's like there's almost a shaming of people who want to rehome, but I'm very pro rehome in a situation like that because the dog is better off in a home that's suited for it. It's going to have a better life. And then those people also aren't going to be miserable because it's also the wrong fit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you have to look at the whole picture, and it doesn't mean that it's a failure. It means that you're being smart, you're recognizing the signs, and you're realizing that both of you will be happier somewhere else.
exactly. So, how did this lead into your pet nutritionist certification? Like, at what point did you decide, oh, I need to find out about food?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a big thing. I think I first started realizing that I needed to educate myself more and learn more was when I was going to vet and I couldn't get answers. So when I was still doing purebreds and we were dealing with those upper respiratory infections with cats, we were talking with the vet and working with the vet, and we had, you know, a litter of kittens being raised by a vet tech in her house, and they were the only pets in her house, and we were still getting upper respiratory infections. And the vet was like, "No, that's just normal for kittens this age, and that's just kind of how it is with kittens." And I was like, "No, I know this isn't," because I had been raising kittens for a long time, and that kind of came in over time. And so anyway, I started looking at, training in essential oils. So as I mentioned, I'm a certified animal aromatherapy specialist. So I was looking there for answers. I was looking at all kinds of places for answers because as much as I love my vets, and I use my vet a lot, I really feel like we have a good partnership. Sometimes they just didn't have all the answers. They didn't have enough time to get into some of the training. And it's kind of what we see with human doctors too. They kind of go to school and they learn how to bandage up symptoms and send you on your way. And sometimes we don't get the root cause.
Yeah.
So as I was getting into essential oils and more holistic modalities and learning that, obviously nutrition became a really big part of that because it's so foundational.
Mm-hmm. So with what were you using the aromatherapy for? Like what sorts of things were coming up that you were
I
utilizing
use it all the
there?
time now,
Mm.
and then, but essential oils are such a great and other like holistic supplements and things. There's just so many things like humans that if we are doing, taking the right herbs and the right supplements, that it really helps extend and support our body systems so they can heal themselves. So I try not to get into too much detail with essential oils because there's so much you have to kind of explain about how to get the right essential oils so that you don't cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
It's usually easier to kind of talk about supplementation, but we did use it. Like I use essential oils. We use essential oils for calming. We use essential oils for helping with being car sick. We use it for digestive support. We use it for just general kind of balancing the mood in a group. And so we yeah, we use essential oils a fair amount of the time. And again, I've been trained under a vet that trains other vets, and they have a certification and they get CE hours for training under her. So she's very well established and used essential oils for years and years. But it's been a great addition to what we do.
Yeah, definitely. And do you do that for clients? Like, do you, or just for your dogs, or do you also do that like as
So
a
it's
service?
part of our lifetime support. So if someone gets on a call with me and they're having an issue, then a lot of times we'll talk about essential oils.
Okay.
It does take some more education. So I have a couple modules about it that they can watch and
Okay.
learn. But most of the time, honestly, we'll go to supplements first, just because it's easier to say, okay, give this chew to your puppy, than kind of going through the whole thing about essential oils.
So you got into the essential oils and then later you got into the nutrition side, like the certified nutritionist?
Yep, yep. So interestingly enough, I did kind of the more holistic modalities. I mean, in my certification, we did lots of training. We talked about acupressure, acupuncture. We talked about traditional Chinese medicine. We've kind of run the gambit of a lot of those more holistic modalities. And so I've learned a lot of different things, which is really helpful when you're kind of looking at problems from a bird's eye view.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and
I've,
during that period, obviously, nutrition was part of it.
yeah, I've some of my dogs have had acupuncture, and I'm a huge chiropractor fan for my dogs. I'm always telling
Yes,
everybody, I go to the chiropractor. Like, how
yes.
do you not go to the chiropractor? My vet now, although like Western medicine, but he's huge on laser treatments, laser therapy. So I've had a lot of success with that too. So I'm always keen to try for sure, to sort of incorporate the holistic side.
Yeah.
So with nutrition, so what exactly are you feeding, raw or a mix, or what do you recommend now for your puppies when they go out and for your dogs? What do you feed them?
Yeah. So the way I kind of train people is there's good, better, best, right? So I think the minimum people should be looking at is a really high quality kibble.
Hmm.
And a couple things to know about the industry is there's a lot of interestingly and horrifyingly sad stuff that happens in the industry. So kibble gets a really bad rap in general, and a lot of it probably is well earned. Um, but what you want to look for, and the best you can, and I think most people kind of know this, is you want a protein first. And when you look at the label too, a lot of companies are getting really good at figuring out how to make the protein first, because ingredients on the label are listed by weight. And so now that they know people are savvy to that, they'll divide up the corn into three categories. They'll divide up, and use different forms of grain, and so that it makes it so that the meat, the protein is first. So you want to look at that. There's a big buzz about byproducts. So byproducts aren't necessarily bad, like it could be organ meat. The problem is when it's not listed out, it also could be feathers and beaks and, all kinds of stuff that sometimes they'll add in that aren't great for you. And so I think the companies that are trying hard are no longer listing byproducts as a line. They're
Mm.
now kind of saying what's inside it. But kind of the dark side of the industry is that even once you have a really good label, number one, we're seeing some issues with mislabeling. So there's a big pet food company right now out in a lawsuit because they mislabeled, or it's alleged that they mislabeled the fat content in it.
Wow.
So there's mislabeling that happens. There's also the standard where you can actually make small shifts and not have to change the label, that it's industry allowed. And then the biggest thing is that nobody regulates the quality of the ingredients. So you can have everything from human grade chicken, which I think is what we all think of when we see chicken,
Yeah.
to roadkill chicken. It's common practice to scrape what they have off the slaughterhouse floor and send it over. I have a good friend that was driving cross country, and her family got stuck behind this truck, And it became a big family joke because it stunk so bad. They could not figure out what could stink that bad. And it was a two-lane road, so they were stuck behind it. It pulled over to get gas, and because it had become such a family joke, they pulled over and asked the driver what he was taking because they were all kind of taking bets on it. And it was chicken from a Tyson food plant going to a pet food
Oh, yeah.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of different quality. So the only thing we have to really base the quality off of is the results we see. And
Mhm.
so, unfortunately, that leaves a lot to us as consumers to really be aware and pay attention to what's going on with our pets.
Mhm. And the poop. I always tell people, look at that poop. You can tell a lot from your dog's poop.
Yes, you can. I talk about poop way more than most people want to talk about poop.
Pictures. It's just so perfect. When it's very loose stool, you don't want extremely loose stool in huge amounts.
Correct.
There's got to be
Yep.
a lot of waste in the food if they're pooping like 5 times a day in massive piles.
And that's one of the other like industry tricks that people play. And it's not just in pet food, like you see it in laundry detergent too. They'll put a ton of water in laundry detergent, give you a bigger bottle, you use more, and you feel like you got so much more when you walked out of the grocery store. But in reality, you want a food that's more concentrated, that has none of the fillers or the bad byproducts in it, and then they poop less, they eat less, and it's more per pound, but serving size to serving size, you're really ahead.
And it's hard because, like you say, it's confusing for people because whether you're going for a good quality kibble or you decide to use real food, cooked or raw, then there's also raw where they're cutting corners and they're putting in garbage. So it's confusing because you think, oh, I'm doing something better, but you still have to look into what ingredients they're using.
Yeah,
And I remember like when I was trying to make the switch, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, like I went through this phase where I bought a food processor and was going to cook my own, and then I gave my dog horrible diarrhea. So it was a journey to get there, but it's super confusing. So how did you decide to go with? Because you work with a certain company. How did you decide to go with them, and what kind of things? Sorry, my shepherd's wanting attention. What kind of things were they doing that you liked? Like, how did you? What was in their labeling? What ingredients were they using that you went, yeah, that's the one.
that's what I want to use. Yeah. So honestly, I had a friend that introduced it to me, and my first thought was, this is so expensive. This is going to cost me so much money. And I was honestly kind of skeptical. I needed to switch foods. What we were using wasn't working. But what I noticed from a breeder side was we started having larger litter sizes. We started having healthier, fatter babies. We started having moms keeping their milk better. We started having, it's a big thing for moms to lose some fur from nutritional deficiencies and stuff when they're having babies. So we started noticing that they were keeping their coats. And I was like, there is something here. And I've been with the company. So the name of the company is Pottery,
Okay.
and I've been with them for 8, 9 years now. And I do a lot of consults in the community, and it's so fun to watch a dog with, you know, reoccurring ear infections or super greasy coat or, some different thing going on. And all we do is we work on their nutrition and to see the change in their whole countenance, so their energy level, the way their body is, even their mood, is really impacted by the gut like humans. So it's a fun process to watch, and it's very similar to what anyone is thinking can happen with humans. When we put the right nutrition in, our body just works better.
Totally. And I've seen like, especially raising puppies, I've seen puppies on low quality food versus high quality food. And they're like twice the size versus like scrawny little puppies. Like, it's so important for them to get that nutrition as they're growing.
Yes, absolutely. It really impacts their joints and how their growth plates, and there's a lot, just like with humans with epigenetics, like there's things that are triggered that wouldn't be normally triggered because of inflammation in the body or different unhealthy, somewhat hostile environments that we create within our body, and it's the same with dogs.
Totally. And like I train clients, I train pet clients, but I often, first lesson, we're talking about nutrition. We're talking about usually the dog's overweight often. And I try to get people on that first because it could affect the dog's behavior, like you're saying. Like some dogs can be a little bit aggressive or a little bit, but it's because they're in pain or they're uncomfortable. It could be related to nutrition, it could be related to the obesity, it could be related to other things, not necessarily their temperament. You know, I
Yeah.
do see that for sure.
And just with like humans, our gut is the place where we produce a lot of neurotransmitters. So our serotonin, which makes us happy and able to regulate, it's the same with dogs. If their gut is completely out of balance, then you're going to have more emotional health issues.
Exactly. What kind of, is there a specific company you go with for supplements, or does it just depend on what supplements you're using, or
Pottery is my favorite all the way around.
both? Okay.
Yeah. So they have a 100% money back guarantee for 90 days. I don't know another company that does that.
That's very good.
Um, they're very different than most companies. So you're not going to find them in Petco or PetSmart. They ship directly from their warehouse, and it's intentional. The founder actually was in a different pet company role, and he was like Walmart vendor of the year, Petco vendor of the year, and he decided to go independent because he realized how much control, whether it's a brick and mortar or a virtual store, has on the price point of the product. And so a lot of times, I mean, there's so many reasons why companies change. And if you guys watch the pet food or the pet supplement issue, you'll watch the recipes change, and ones that were really good will change over time. And some of it's that they got bought out. Some of it's that, the company just decided they needed more profit. It might be that the cost of the ingredients rose. We saw that heavily during COVID.
Yeah,
It,
I'm still here.
yeah, and another reason is that these stores will come in and they will make the companies compete for shelf space and push for a certain price point until they get it. And
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of forces the companies to reformulate, even if they weren't wanting to or, in the space to. And so that's how that, it's a unique company. They have every year they're coming out with new products, but one of my favorites is actually called Plaque Control. And I'm going to give you guys a coupon code. So, Plaque Control works with a kelp there's a researched, peer-reviewed study out there about this type of kelp, and it works through the bloodstream and it makes it so that the plaque doesn't stick to the teeth.
Wow.
And yeah, it's amazing because you give them a chew and it helps. Even if you need dentals, it softens the plaque so
Mm.
that it's easier so that they don't have to be under as long for the dentals. And
Right.
80% of dogs have dental issues, dental disease by the time they're 3. And so being able to give them a daily chew that's fun really makes it easier, for doing some kind of a dental routine. We should be brushing teeth still, but let's be honest, most of us don't.
No. And I find especially small dogs, it's a challenge because it always seems like small dogs just build more tartar. So it's more of a challenge to keep their teeth looking white than big dogs.
Yeah, I think part of it is, there is a component of plaque buildup to how much they chew and how they chew. And so that may be it with, the smaller dogs you're seeing. But yeah, plaque control is a great thing. I really love salmon oil, but you have to have a good quality salmon oil. And Pottery's salmon oil has pollock oil in it too, which actually helps with um, the omega ratios. And it also helps it not go rancid as quickly because the pollock oil is more stable.
I
But lots of research study about brain, heart,
Yeah,
skin, eye health with the omegas. So,
I've been wanting to add an omega, but I've tried certain ones, and like you say, the smell it just doesn't seem to last very long, and it's really hard to find something. So So that's
Yeah.
really
There used to be two I recommended, but the other one during COVID kind of, I don't know what happened. They must have reformulated or changed their processing. So Pottery is the only one I recommend now. But they have a full line of joint supplements. They have a full, like, I guess it's not a full line of joint supplements. It's one joint supplement, but they have a multivitamin. They have one for aging dogs. They have one for, like a pre-probiotic with digestive enzymes and herbs. And again, what I love about pottery is that they take the best in all of it and combine it. I see a lot of other supplements where they take two ingredients that have been shown to do a good job,
yeah,
but it doesn't really help everyone. It only helps if those two are the ones that would impact them. And pottery brings in and they put a bunch of different ingredients in that have been proven to help so that you're more likely to get the results. And that's why they offer the 90-day money back guarantee.
yes. And do they ship all over North America?
Yep. Well,
Or-
all over the United States.
Okay,
I guess
okay.
I should say. Right now, they're only in the US. I'm sure they'll grow outside into Canada and, down south, but right now they're only in the US.
So for those of us close to the border, we can jump across.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people have in Canada have like PO boxes in the
Yes.
US and they'll go ahead and set up an account and ship to that PO box and then yeah, when we get to the Canada, which I hope is in the next few years, then it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome. So, um, let's talk a little bit more about, let's go back a little bit and backtrack a little bit to what happens before puppy comes home and early socialization and some of that. We're going to backtrack a little bit to
Yeah,
puppies.
for sure. Before we get off the topic of nutrition, let me just give you the coupon code. So elevated, all in lower caps, elevated will give you 10% off an order under 100 and 20% off an order over 100. So I'll just drop that for your fan base here so that they can give pottery a try. And then they're welcome to reach out to me if they have specific questions on that. Uh,
Perfect. Thank you. And
now,
we'll include that in our podcast info as well, so people can refer to that.
okay. And then with puppy socialization, I mean, that piece with the breeder is so crucial. So we already talked about health testing standards. When you're looking at working with a breeder, you definitely want to ask, what are your socialization processes? What are you doing with the puppies before they come home to me? So you've got that nature and you've got the nurture. So they should be screening the genetic personality of the parents, and then um, they should be working with them for the whole time they're with them. And so usually kind of the breed standard, or I guess breed, it's dog standard is that they do early neurological stimulation and early scent introduction, and that's between days 3 and 17. And it's actually a program developed by the US military. They called it the Super Dog program. And there's 5 steps that you do with the puppies that the research shows helps develop neural pathways that last for life. So it helps them with being more stress tolerant, their immune systems are boosted, that they're more adaptable, and um, excuse me. So that's kind of the minimum that breeders should be working on with those first early weeks. And then after that, there's several different kind of programs out there. You probably heard of Puppy Culture, Avidog, Empowered Breeder, are just a few of the main ones that are out there. And so basically, what breeders should be doing is every day puppies need to be introduced to new sounds, new textures, new objects, new obstacles, so that they're getting a new experience every day. And what that might look like is, one day we do a parachute overhead and we just kind of rustle something overhead. We use blow dryers actually every day because puppies need to be groomed as they grow, and we want them to be really good with the blow dryer. And then, it might be putting in a new slide. It might be putting in a ball with spikes on it. It might be putting in a boot. It might be putting in a piece of cardboard or bubble wrap. It might be, putting an obstacle course in, and that's part of our curriculum where one day they've got to crawl over stuff to get to their food or go around a wall to get to food. And so what that does for a puppy is it helps the puppy feel confident in, oh, that's different. That's not bad. I've seen, 50 different things and none of them were bad. I was still safe. And so it helps them be confident on carpet, on linoleum, on tile, on metal, on grass, on turf, so that they can go out into the world and not be terrified about everything new.
Yes, so important, so incredibly important. Because as a trainer, I've seen the flip side where that has not happened. And then it's very hard to introduce those things later.
Yeah, it is. And I think one thing a lot of breeders don't talk about too is that we do have a critical period, but there's another 8 to 12 weeks where it's critical in the new person's home. They'll go through a couple more fear
Yes.
stages. And so it's important that if you're getting a new puppy, even if you've had an incredible breeder, that you keep up with those experiences so that that foundation really lasts.
Yes. And that's where people often, I don't know where the association comes from, but people hear socialize your puppy and they just immediately think a dog park. I don't know why. Because we keep
Not a
telling
good
them,
idea. Yeah.
but for whatever reason, it's like an instant thing. Because everybody who call, oh, we're socializing, we're going to the dog park. I'm like, no, stop. That's not socializing. So maybe
Yeah.
just touch on that period after what it means, what people should be doing when they first bring it home with socializing, which is not going to the dog park.
No, dog parks, you have to be so careful when going to dog parks. So I usually
That's for
recommend
sure.
my clients don't because there's so many caveats and so many issues that can come up with it. But socialization really is exposing your puppies in a gentle, calm way to a lot of new things all the time. New sounds, new people, new sights, and not in an overwhelming way. Like we're talking like 15, 20 minutes of something that's new, and depending on how they react to it, you
Hmm.
help them through it. So, for example, if you open an umbrella and they startle,
Ooh.
then you don't move the umbrella, leave it open, and just call them over and let them explore it and make it a positive experience. The startle isn't the problem. You just don't want to pick them up and be like, oh, you poor thing, throw the umbrella away and like, oh, I'll never do that again. You actually want to help them work through and kind of meet their fear if it's possible, if they
It's a
can do it
great
without being
example.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example of the umbrella. Just leave it there and just let them come up to it, bring them back over. Because most dogs, normal temperament, are going to go over and 5 seconds later realize, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not that scary. And sometimes a puppy may be overwhelmed with it and it may not work to bring him back to that day, but leave it out, put food around it, make it part of a normal experience until they're not scared of it. And you just, you have to allow them to encounter things that are new and different in as positive and comfortable way as possible.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a big one that people struggle with, I think. So very, very good to touch on that. So where can people find you as far as like your website or info on your mini Goldens?
Yeah, so my website for mini Goldens is Big Hearted Breeders with an S at the end .com. So you can come see me there. And then I run the Big Hearted Breeders community, which is a training community for breeders. So on social, it's Big Hearted Breeders. And then for my breeder community, if you guys are a breeder and want to learn more, it's BHB Community. And just come find me. I'd love to help with whatever questions you have. If you're dealing with something specific, I can send you a quick free pet analysis to kind of see what you're going through and see if I can, give you some quick advice on holistic supplementations or tools or things to use. So,
Yeah, that would be awesome. Awesome. Is there any important advice you want to leave our listeners with today?
yeah, I guess I would just say pets are so powerful. We haven't talked about it a whole lot here.
No.
I saw it transform the life of the kids in my home.
Hmm.
And when I say transform, I mean helping them through massive trauma and get to the point where they had something in their life that felt secure, that felt loving, that felt like it was welcoming and kind of brought them into a space of kind of more balance in their emotions, even if it was just for a minute. And so I don't think we always realize the power that these amazing fur babies we have around us can play in our lives and do if it's the proper match. So, like we were talking about before, if it's a mismatch, we're not going to see the power of that. But when it's a good match, it's amazing. So, I would just say, do your education or take some time before you pick a puppy, find the right breeder, find the right rescue, find the right breed, and then, of course, get your training like Melissa is
Mhm,
helping you guys do here.
mhm. We always tell people, and I do too, is like pick right, pick right. But are there any specific questions you think people should sit down and answer for themselves to help them pick right?
I think the number one mismatch I see is energy, and I'm sure that's what you see too.
Yes.
You see the
And
Australian
size.
Shepherd or any of these dogs, and um, you get a dog that has a need for a lot of exercise and a lot of brain stimulation, and then you look at your life and you're like, oh, I really don't have time to meet that. So I would say the first thing to look at is energy and temperament. What do I want my dog to be like? And spend some time looking at that before looking at color or, anything else. So,
Definitely. And I find size so huge too, because I mean, a 30-pound dog jumping on you versus a 120-pound dog jumping on you. Maybe jumping up isn't great, but at 35 pounds, it's not going to do that much damage compared to 120.
yeah. And it's a lot easier for an elderly person to have a dog that, and again, you might be training them and kind of figuring things out, and maybe they don't do it very often, but when they do, yeah, it can be dangerous for
Yeah,
some groups of people.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
wonderful. Well, I know we could do a whole nother topic just on the human animal bond connection. I really wanted to get into the nutrition stuff today, though, with you and the breeding. So thank you so much. But maybe we'll have to do a follow up another day.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was just great to have you. So we're going to post all that info, your links, and I just want to thank everybody again for listening to another episode of House Wolves. And thank you for your time.
Thanks again for having me.